State of emergency is declared in hard-hit Frederick after last night's strong storms caused widespread flooding and destruction. Tonight, rain continues to soak the area. It's causing more flooding on roadways. High water is flowing down this street, for example. The rain causing issues all day in Frederick. This is what it looked like earlier this evening. Traffic was slow moving as rainwater covered roads. WJZ is live. Bob Turk is tracking live Doppler radar. Let's start though with George Solis live in Frederick with a look at the severe flooding and the damage. George.
Good evening, Vic. It's really been a steady stream of rain like this throughout the region, which has caused flooding throughout the area, which has also led to several road closures. Meanwhile, waterways like the Monocacy River behind me are still rising, a big concern for residents who live nearby. Cleanup in Frederick is now underway after Tuesday night's historic and dramatic flash flooding. An already monumental task following the deluge as Wednesday more rain continued to wash over the hard-hit region. The mayor even declaring a state of emergency.
We had about a foot of water in the basement.
Denise Golden sharing these photos with WJZ of the flooding of her home and business in nearby Jefferson, Frederick County. Golden also sharing this video of flooding so severe it washed away a shed in her backyard.
We've lost a lot of equipment, tools.
At one point, the water was so high and powerful here in Jefferson that this truck was completely flipped upside down. While several roadways around the region also flooded and were transformed into small pools, it was State Highway 180 that really took a beating. Lieutenant Governor on scene surveying the damage.
There's going to be a lot of work that's going to have to be done down there.
The local YMCA estimates about $1 million worth of damage on their end.
Water was coming up through the toilets.
First responders also keeping busy, not only continuously monitoring roadways Wednesday, but overnight Tuesday responding to hundreds of emergency calls and conducting at least 60 rescues. Residents now fearful of what Mother Nature could bring next.
I don't want it to flood again.
And also new tonight, City of Frederick officials asking residents to stop non-essential water use. That means stopping things like washing dishes and clothes. Reason being, they say that their water treatment plant is flooding and can't take much more. Live in Frederick tonight, George Solis reporting for WJZ.
That makes sense, George. Thank you. Flooding concerns tonight as more rain drenches Maryland, and it is not over yet. Check out the damage to this bridge along Route 180 in Frederick. The county remains under a state of emergency. Flash flood watches and warnings are in effect across the region. This flooded car near that same area in Frederick, the vehicle almost completely submerged by the fast-moving water. WJZ has team weather coverage tonight. Bob Turk is tracking what's ahead, but let's start with George Solis live in Frederick County. George?
Good evening, Mary. Certainly a change of pace from when we were out here 24 hours ago and rain was still falling. But roads and properties around the region are still saturated, putting them at great risk, especially with more rain expected in the coming days. Parts of Frederick County are continuing to feel the impacts of historic flash flooding that has caused unprecedented damage. The deluge so severe that the local state of emergency that started in the city of Frederick has now expanded countywide.
The so-called 100-year flood or the so-called 500-year flood, they're happening more often now, which means that amount of time is not what we think it is anymore.
At a press conference Thursday, City of Frederick Mayor Michael O'Connor praising the city's infrastructure for helping limit the level of destruction.
It safeguarded the lives and the property of our residents and our downtown businesses.
Nearby Baker Park, however, only now just recovering from the rising waters.
All the way out through that field, all the way around the bell tower, just looked like this huge, wide river.
In neighboring Jefferson, several roads are expected to remain closed for weeks. Part of the bridge along Corum Road swept away and underwater. The bridge on St. Mark's Road covered in debris from the creek. One homeowner blaming part of the severe flooding on old infrastructure like this tunnel opening back here, which he says is so small that at the peak of the storm, it caused water to explode out here, not only changing the landscape of his backyard, but also of the creek itself.
I keep calling it ground zero.
John Parader's home was spared, but his yard, including his wife's garden and tools from his shed, destroyed.
I have pieces of driveway and asphalt completely, 100 yards away, 50 yards away. The grill, everything is just gone.
Insurance isn't going to be much help either. For the time being, John is choosing to stay focused on the positive.
Everybody's safe, the family's okay.
He's hopeful, as are many others, that the worst of it is now over. Guys, and John also hopeful that the county will now take a look at hard-hit areas like the one in his neck of the woods to see what can be done to prevent future flooding like that from occurring again. Live in Frederick tonight, George Solis reporting for WJZ.
George, thank you.
Let's now go to George Solis live in Annapolis, where conditions could get worse. George?
Good evening, Mary. A bit of a chill out here tonight, but as far as the rain goes, it's really like someone's been turning the shower off and on. It comes and it goes. There's at least one road closure here in Anne Arundel County, but around the state there is some significant damage.
It's definitely high. The water's definitely high.
A dark, dreary, and increasingly damp evening in Annapolis. Residents say it's anything but a typical Friday evening here.
There's a lot less traffic.
Even during what you could call the relative calm before the storm, there are those carrying on with business as usual.
Safe getting on a boat. I don't feel safe standing right here, I'll tell you that, though.
These midshipmen and their dates getting drenched before heading out to sea for a party. I mean, you're really not concerned at all, huh?
Oh, we're in the Navy. We're good.
Roads in the county, however, are no laughing matter. This is exactly the kind of thing emergency officials warn the public about when they say turn around, don't drown, especially when it comes to low-lying roads like this section of Maryland 450. Route 450 is closed, but the concern is more roads could look like this by the end of the weekend.
When I went down the basement, as far as I could go, everything was submerged.
In waterlogged Frederick, historic flooding has taken nearly everything from some homeowners.
I actually sat and bawled.
Tuesday and Wednesday's flooding also resulting in an estimated $1 million worth of damage at the local YMCA, meaning Frederick County's largest child care center is now closed. A state of emergency has been declared throughout the county.
Emotionally, socially, spiritually, physically, it is absolutely draining.
In Montgomery County, reports of several downed trees because of ground so saturated, also a growing concern. This large one falling on a home in Bethesda. Amazingly, there were no injuries. And again, officials warn that as tempting as it may look, if you do see that rising water on the road, to not take that chance, to turn around and don't drown. Live in Annapolis tonight, George Solis reporting for WJZ.
George, thank you. Remember to download WJZ's weather app to keep track of our changing weather. Get hourly, daily, and extended forecast plus severe weather warnings. Just search WJZ Weather and get our app.